Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the October 7th meeting of the Stockbridge Assessors. Mike will start off our meeting.
Good morning. The minutes from the last meeting need to be approved.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Okay. Tammy got ready number 2 batch of motor vehicle abatement applications, certificates to sign. Number 3, because we're in tax rate setting time, I do have to have the board sign we do this every year, the permission letter for me to sign the forms that I can sign on Gateway. That has to be attached with the tax rate page 1 of the recap.
It must be official because I'm using my middle initial.
Number 4, we finally have our paperwork and everything ready to go for the Berkshire County Assessors Association annual fall meeting on October 23rd. I have to get this in, well, I should get it in today, so they can cut the check and have it sent by October 16th. It's a Wednesday, October 23rd from 8:30 until noon. It's our 100th anniversary. So we've been, I'm on the committee, so, we've gone over the menus and who we're going to have as a speaker. Lauren Aldridge from the DLS Rural Community Outreach Program. She's going to be talking about, divisional local services role in our assessing. And you know how they're talking about regionalizing, boards of assessors. I don't know where that stands right now, but so she's going to give us an update on that. Intermunicipal agreements. We're then going to have the business meeting, election of officers, lunch, and then we do have a giveaway for everybody. And that's really going to be it. So again, it could go a little bit longer than that. I have to stick around that day for the official meeting afterwards. But if you guys want to go, Brandy, you're going, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you're gonna go. Is anyone else going
Yeah,
from?
I'll go. I mean, I think it's,
All right, okay.
I have another meeting in the morning. What time does this one start?
It starts at 8:30.
Oh, no, I can't go then.
Okay.
I have no.
All right, so then Gary and Brandy and Tammy and I are gonna go. I
and
mean,
where is it?
it's at the Williams Inn, which is completely brand new. I mean, they redid the whole thing, so it should be really nice. We kind of went with a fall type menu,
It starts at 8 or 9? 8.
8:30.
8:30.
Well, I mean, I would get there a little bit earlier than that. I mean, I'll try to save a table, but I'm probably going to be helping. I'm probably going to help set up. So, I'll be,
So this is up in Williamstown? That's
yes,
gonna be convenient for you.
very convenient for me. Finally, because they're usually always down here, usually at Greenwich or something.
So
It should be fun.
we can do an overnight stay.
The $40 will not cover that. And I don't think we have to pick, no, because it's a buffet. Okay, so there's no picking of what you want. All right, so I'll put you guys down. I'm gonna get this in today. Do you know how long that would take to cut that check?
Do it today and it'll probably get any.
Okay, I will do it today then. All right, that takes care of that. It should be, we're trying to get a lot of people. I mean, 100 doesn't roll around every day, and it's probably gonna be, a lot of the people that are there.
You'll
A
never-
lot of them are heading for retirement, so this is gonna be good. And I know what the giveaways are too, and they're pretty cool. Okay, number 5, which is basically the bigger one here. So the LA3, the LA4, the LA13, the LA15 have all been submitted. I'll go through each one. LA3 are our sales, which Joe Barberi and I were reviewing all day on Friday. And supposedly the form was the LA15, which is just the the end result of the sales was supposed to be approved on Friday. It's still not. So I'm not sure. Hopefully he didn't find anything else, but he wanted to call me. Joe's going away on vacation on Wednesday to Cancun, and I really want this wrapped up like today or tomorrow.
He may not be, by the way.
Oh, that's right. Oops, totally forgot about that. So anyway, the sales look good, the backup looked good. The LA4, I actually need a majority of the Board of I signed, again, this letter, I signed it, but I always forget that they need a majority of the Board of Assessors to sign it, so we can do that after the meeting. The LA13 new growth is submitted as well, and you usually review them together. So we're gonna he said he was gonna use the weekend to review that and get back to me if there were any issues. I don't see any issues with that, but he also reviews the appraisals that we had done, for the 504 companies by RRC. If he has any issues with that, he gets back to me. There's nothing I can do about it. I mean, they're the ones that do the appraisal. The new growth number that we submitted was roughly around 11 million in value, which is down from last year, but only because there's so many partial values that I picked up. Next year we'll be picking up probably more, because if someone did a house and it wasn't finished, I just flag it that it's not done. And almost every single one that I went to look at, we only picked up a percentage. So next year we should be higher on that number, but that's still a decent number for a small community, 11 million in valuation. It's not, again, it is not approved yet. I'm really hoping it would be awesome if we could get that all wrapped up, hopefully this week. I mean, I'm thinking today, if not tomorrow, but he told me a lot of towns are submitting. So we're all in the rat race to get to the end for that.
So like the 11 million of new growth also could be new growth of tax exempt properties? Is that a true statement?
Only if they go back on the tax rolls.
Only if they go back on the.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
Yep.
so the renovations down at the old town offices,
None of that gets,
none of it.
well, no, I mean, that is not technically you mean with the Waldorf school? No, that'll be looked at next year. We'll
But-
pick that up
but-
because they haven't applied for an exemption status. I don't know if they ever would.
Well, it's a school, so I think,
They might, but as of January 1st, we're already in, I mean, the three BCs that were collected last year were for this coming year. The ones that go out next year, if they file one, that's usually due before March 1st, that would be for the next fiscal year. So January 1, they would not be tax exempt. If whatever is there as of January 1 that's completed, we technically can pick up as new growth. So yeah, I will definitely be looking. I'm just gathering my information now. We haven't even done the mapping company still hasn't done all of the ownership changes for that yet. I mean, I don't know if you've seen those deeds. It is so confusing about what happened over there. There's a couple new pieces that are created. There's some easements that just came through that need to be applied. It's very, very different, but I need to have the mapping company handle that part of it. But, oh, definitely, they're not tax exempt as of today.
And then
So that is
they
up
own
to
the
them
whole
to
front
apply.
yard now?
I'm not sure.
Again,
Oh, that's
there's
right.
at least 6 deeds that were filed in February and March.
Part of it used to be the town green.
Yes. I
Yep.
mean, that, yeah.
The latest one that I just printed was an easement given by the Stockbridge Golf Club to the Waldorf School. And by looking at, the map is a little bit confusing. By looking at it, it looks like it runs along the parking lot. So I mean, right up to the front. So I'm not sure what, I mean, again, I got to send all this to the mapping company and let them reinterpret these deeds, because there's a lot of them and I don't want to make those decisions on my own. They really need to verify it. But no, the building permits for that, I definitely will be looking at that, and whatever's done as of January 1, we'll get one new growth year out of that. And it would be up to them to apply for exemption on that property. So, we're also, well, I'll get to that. I put it on here. I was just gonna review it all together. So if everything gets done on the LA3, the LA15, the LA4, the LA13, we're now done with the valuation side of it. And then we're only dealing with the tax classification and the tax rate side of it, which brings us to number 6. We're already working on the tax rate. We're trying to plug everything in because I can't go to the tax classification hearing not knowing pretty much what the tax rate is going to be. So the new accounting firm, myself, Mike, Erica, and Terry, we have all been working on the recap, and I am pretty sure as of now, everything has been filled in. So we know what the tax rate is going to be. Obviously, I'm not going to release that until we have the classification set up. But in order to get there also, we do need to approve a number for the overlay because that will affect the tax rate. So last year, we put in around 54,000. We do not need 54,000. We have $190,000 in the overlay. That's a lot of money. And so, but they're gonna make us put something in there. So we plugged in 25,000. What might happen is, I mean, we want to submit it with 25,000 with the current tax rate that we're proposing, which I will say is less than last year's. That's pretty much the only thing I will say. But there is one of those, on Gateway, when you see those little nuclear signs, it doesn't mean you can't submit. It's just a warning that says your average abatements equal this amount. You may want to put in this amount, which I never understood why it says that, because we're also reporting that we have $190,000. So we don't even need that amount that's
What if it
there.
doesn't go back?
They look at what,
Well, everything is considered, we used to keep everything separate by fiscal years. Everything is now considered one
Right.
account, but we still, just for accounting purposes, we still keep it separate.
The software may not know that there's a balance
Right.
of X.
That's
So
what
it's
I'm-
just,
Yeah, I mean, Erica and I, well, after Cheryl left, we went through the overlay to make sure that we're all on the same board with how much is left. We reconciled every single abatement, every uncollectible that could possibly come out of there. And we balanced, it's roughly around 190,000. I do put that number in there because the accountant has to sign off on it. But for some reason, again, I think it's just a precaution for towns that are not where we're at, where they're literally, they're using they're using the average amount, but then they may be having an overlay deficit. We've never had an overlay deficit here.
DOR also looks at what the tax collector has outstanding on her books in
Yes.
general. So
Right.
she's got 600,000
And
out.
see, that comes, I believe, from the Schedule A, which isn't done right now. I don't know when that's getting certified. So we're meeting every Thursday, the department heads, to make sure we're all on the same, as far as the tax rate goes and what needs to get done. So I know as of now, we officially do not have our books closed. It doesn't mean they won't be closed by time the tax classification comes around and we submit for the tax rate and we start doing our bills. If we don't have the books closed, there's a form that you have to file in lieu of balance sheet. If you don't file that, you don't get your tax rate set. We have to have everything in place, but I've been told at our last meeting that they're close to finalizing it, which I'm assuming, like Brandy, that the Schedule A has to be done if they're close to finalizing it, because that determines your free cash.
Yeah.
So we don't officially know what our certified free cash is. That typically comes in once the Schedule A is completed, but that's kind of past me. I don't get into that accounting side of it.
so just to confirm, so if the collector writes off bad or uncollectible taxes, it doesn't come out of the overlay, right?
No, it does come out of the
It does
overlay,
come out of the
yeah,
overlay.
but she's already on that, and she says there's nothing else there that she's dealing with for write-offs. We've already done.
Yeah, but she doesn't have 100% collection rate, so she still has outstanding
Right,
tax.
yeah, that's what she has to plug that part in, but we're still good. I mean, we're still gonna be, well over 100,000 going. We have nothing, other than the, Camp Mackinac abatements, which we'll deal with the closer we get to the, case that was postponed. But even after that, we're still gonna have, that abatement is maybe 11,000, if that, if we were to, divide it down the middle, we're still gonna be well over what we need for anything. So I still think 25,000 is a good number. And if we have to, let them tell us, wait a minute, your average was 5 years, maybe you should plug in 37,000. I don't think they're gonna do that. The whole point of combining all of your years into one was for purposes like this, to show the DOR, you don't need to be, we were putting in like close to 100,000 a year and then just keep turning it over and turning it over. This was to eliminate that and try to kickstart the towns that don't carry any, that, and I don't know how you guys are in Otis, but we're pretty good here with releasing that money. Next year, you may want to consider, and you can tell me when to put this on the agenda, releasing some of that money after we've satisfied all the abatements and exemptions, and to see what's left at the end of the year if we get the tax bills out, where you can review everything by the end of the year. If not, whenever the abatements and exemptions are done for next year, take a look at the overlay, because that's a giant amount to have in there. And I know you guys were always comfortable with having around 100,000 in there and keeping that. So
That's where the tax collector's balance comes in, because in Otis, we had like 160,000 and we were seeing if we could release any, and we can't because her outstanding is higher than that.
wow.
That's where it has to sit there.
I mean, the chances of writing off
100%.
right, I mean, are pretty slim, and maybe that's where that comes from, but I still think that, from what I don't know if she's 98% or whatever,
Yeah, I think.
but I know we've always been good on that collection rate. So I would say go with the 25,000, see if that comes back once we submit it. It's not gonna not let us submit. It's only a flag. It's not you have to do this. Because I know, Mike and I have talked about this, there are communities that put zero in that amount because they don't turn anything over. So they just constantly keep building and building and building their overlay, and that's not necessarily a good thing either.
But they're letting them put zero in?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Again, all it's gonna do is when you're on Gateway and you see, like right now, we went from maybe errors that were taking up half the screen to there's basically nothing because everyone's plugged in what they were supposed to plug in. That doesn't mean that everything is 100% right. Once you submit to the DOR, the questions may come up. Okay, how are you handling this fund? Why did you decide to just put 25,000 in there when this flag came up? We then have to explain to them, what's behind all of this. And we're also dealing this year with the fact that Jim Podolik, who used to handle all of the tax rate setting for us, is retired now. So there's a temporary person at the DOR handling this. I don't even know who. Do you know who it is, Brandy? I have no idea.
Yeah, we were emailed lists, so Canales would have gotten, it was a list of all Jim's Town and who's filling in.
Oh, okay. Because I talked to Joe and he wasn't sure who we ended up with, but he says he's already retired. I thought he was waiting until November.
No, I thought end of September.
Yep. So that could be a snag because they're not used to the way that we do things here. But then again, that's where everyone has to step it up and explain their role in the tax rate setting process. Terry actually has done quite a bit as far as what we typically handle and just, send it off to that office to sign off on. So we've gone through the whole process with her about the page 4 with the votes. And she's using the spreadsheet that I came up with to verify all those votes. We're also verifying everything. So we're all doing checks and balances on one another. Mike actually filled in the receipts, the estimated receipt side. The accounting firm filled in the actual receipt side. There are still some errors on there because, on page 2, all the supplemental stuff you have to submit now with the tabs. That is way beyond me. I mean, I couldn't help if I wanted to. That is strictly all accounting procedures and verification on, okay, if you had this much in your actual receipts, whether what is it 10% either plus or minus? I can,
Sends a flag.
it sends a flag up. So if you're saying you've got taken in, 100,000 here and all of a sudden you're taking in 300,000, you need to explain that either way, plus or minus. And you have to attach all the documents that go with it. I've not seen a lot of attached documents yet.
You want to estimate conservatively compared to your actuals.
Yes.
And then
Oh, they definitely are.
it helps with your free cash next year, but if you're estimating even below a percentage, it flags it.
And I think he uses 8% as a dip in the estimated, so it doesn't send off anything. But you should see the errors that are still there. They're not errors, they're just concerns, like, we're gonna be calling you for this, this, and this. We do not submit a single thing without those being checked off first. And then we'll start going from there. We did discuss, if we were to hear this week that we have final approval on our valuations, then we can schedule the tax classification hearing. The problem with the tax classification hearing this year is all the Thursday night meetings that I think the select board is only meeting once this month. There is something on the 17th where they won't have a full agenda or a full board. On the 24th, I believe and maybe you guys know, Mike told me it was a meeting where they're going over to West Stockbridge. Do you remember what it
For
was?
the EMS stuff?
Yes, that's what it is. So they won't be meeting that night. So I don't know why it's.
Schedule you a different.
Right, we talked about that. I said, we don't have to have it on a Thursday. We literally can do this it has to be at night. I mean, you got to give people a chance to, it's a public hearing. So I suggested, and we talked about this, that we do, because next week is a short week with the holiday, that we do either that Monday, the Tuesday, or even the Wednesday that I have this meeting, because I could come back down, later on. This ends in the afternoon. So either the 21st, the 22nd, or the 23rd, seeing that they can't meet on the 24th. If not, that bumps us up to November 7th, which is their first meeting in November. And again, I still think we can pump that bill out fast. But I would also like to do, remember the last couple of years, we've had a special Board of Assessors meeting to go over the votes for the classification. I would still like to do that this year for the residential exemption, small commercial exemption, and the split on the tax rate, so we can get it documented in our minutes, how you guys feel about that. So, our next meeting would be.
And how is the new accounting firm helping out well, all this paperwork? Are they been responsive?
Very responsive.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, they're as of right now, there isn't a single thing on the recap that's not filled in. Everything is done.
You need us to go in and sign the LA4?
Yes. And again, I can log in and go into each one and sign off on it that way. This letter will give me permission to attach to the recap for the supporting documents, but I always forget that the LA4 being our valuations, they need a majority of the board to sign it. I don't need to sign that. That has to be done today. I mean, I can go in and do that. I really think we're in good shape. But again, there could be snags, I mean, if the classification hearing were to go south, with a vote for the RTE, we're in a whole different world, and we would discuss that later on, because there's no point in getting into it right now. But I do feel, I mean, would you guys feel comfortable that if we were to have our board meeting or the classification meeting either on the 21st, the 22nd, or 23rd, I think we're meeting on the 21st.
We are.
So that would be a must that we meet that day just to go over, we'll have an agenda for other things, but I would say leave that on the end of the agenda. Not as a mini tax classification hearing, because that's not what it's intended for, but and you guys would control, how much, if there's interaction with the public on that, but this would not be a mini tax classification hearing. This would just be, how is the board, what is the support that the board has for those options? And again, last year they voted in the small commercial exemption. I don't think we need the small commercial exemption in this town. that was a bit of a shock that we ended up with that because there was very little benefit to the entire thing.
So,
Your field rep is David Guzman.
Oh, okay.
so can you give, I mean, do you have details about how many people benefited from that exemption that was granted last year? Like, you know.
Oh, from the small commercial?
Yeah.
There were 3.
So again, so I think that information is really
Yes,
important.
and again, I take
Because-
responsibility for not having everything lined up for that presentation because it isn't that small, not to get into it, but just to express the fact that one of the facts that was brought up, when it isn't even a fact, it was wrong, was that the people that have vacancies would benefit from this, when in actuality, the people that have vacancies don't qualify for it. That's one of the rules. So I will expand on that in my packet that I get ready for the classification. And that's another thing, even if we were to find out that our values were okay and everything was set to go, Tammy's actually working on a list to come up with how many eligible people, you know, kind of off the cuff for the residential tax exemption, because you need to, whether you know for sure that's going to go through or not go through, you still need to have an idea. The state wants you to have an idea at least the first year of how many people would qualify for that, because it determines in the information that I give the select board where the tax rates would shift to make up for that difference. So she went through the list already, but now we have the voters list that she's going to go through. So we need time to do that. I need time to double check all of the small commercial exemptions. I don't want to schedule this literally 48 hours after we find out we have our values set. I would prefer to have it the week where we're meeting, get that meeting out of the way and either have it Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday night, because I actually said, I said, well, where are they having the meeting? If they were having a meeting here, can't I just slip in and do the tax classification? No, Mike's actually going over to West Stockbridge, and I think there's 15 towns appearing at this meeting on the 24th. I said, oh, of course, then do what you have to do. You know, we'll figure out the tax classification.
Well, we should just do it at our regular meeting.
Yeah, I think so. Do it at the, because if not, that means I'd have to schedule something for next Tuesday.
Right.
And that's just, we don't have any guarantee yet that we're gonna have this done by the end of the week.
Yeah.
I'm confident that Joe will get it through, but
Yeah, we'll just
We'll
do it
see.
at our next meeting.
okay. And I'll mention to the group this week when we meet to talk about the tax rate and where we are, that would be, we'll leave it up to them to schedule it that week. If not, it will be November 7th. And let's just say everything were to go the way it typically goes, where I'm in and out, there's no vote for the RTE, and we know that we can start submitting our tax rate the next day. Typically, it's a day or two before we hear anything because everything will be ready to go. We can get with Tammy and myself and Erica working on the tax bills, we could easily get those bills out within a week and a half. So I still think we'll be okay with getting that bill out in November, as long as the tax classification is
Sure.
what it typically is. If it's not, and there's a vote for the RTE, small commercial exemption, even if that did go through again, there's not a lot of benefit for it, but we know how to do it. It's quite different with the other question that's coming up. It is a very big unknown as to how would we handle something like that this late in the game. So I'll keep you guys updated as much as I can on that. But I still think we're in a very good place to have everything set and done in November, mid-November at least, before the holiday. And that's all I have.
And there's no executive session.
Nope.
Required.
And the next meeting is going to be on the 21st.
First, yep.
Yeah, 21st. And then motion we adjourn.
Yeah, nobody's online, right? And there's nobody here except us. So, a second to Doug's motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.